Hey, Victor, thank you so much for sitting down with us and being willing to talk to us. Where are you originally from?
You know, I was raised in Switzerland, central Switzerland, in a little town called Immensee. That's by Lake Zug. That's next to Lake Lucerne. Family of 8. I'm the third youngest. We grew up on a big farm, which was county-owned. My dad was the keeper. I mean, he had to work hard, just like everybody else. But we had we had to help, even though it was not ours. So I'm familiar with farm animals, with work, with picking cherries, with making money to buy your first bicycle to go to school. And then I went to vocational college as a machinist when I was 15. I worked the whole week. One day out of the week for 4 years I went to school. I paid for my own college. It was taken from my paycheck. I was also very young. I was a runner, cross-country runner, a motocrosser. That was always my dream.
A motocrosser?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have that in common. I grew up on motocross bikes.
I was very good in street bicycle ride. I was actually training with Oscar Comensint, which was later a world champion. I would beat him sometimes in practice.
Wow.
After that, I moved to Western Switzerland, which my brother was, so I could race more motocross, learn some French.
Is motocross big in Switzerland?
No, you have to go pretty much to Italy, France, and they hate motorsports pretty much.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, then I went to the Swiss Army. The sports didn't go anywhere. I mean, I did race in 1988 with the Kiwis in New Zealand. I was the youngest motocross rider in the 500cc back then on a two-stroke Kawasaki with 19.
Wow.
I did win some races and, no support except my brother. I was my own mechanic. I bought my own bikes. When I was a little bit better, Kawasaki Switzerland sponsored me, so I had a little bit help. But, going a little van, not factory help like they have nowadays. But anyway, that was my sport, and then I had some abuse to my body kind of through the sport and through work. So I quit motocross. I started mountain climbing with the best, with the SAC, Swiss Alpine Club Federation, for 2 years. Climbed all over Switzerland and Italy and other places. Actually, I went then to New Zealand, to South America. I went to Venezuela with a friend in 1990. I climbed the Pico Espejo when it was still under, it was not a dictator, but it was still, so to speak, an open country. Then we traveled down on a canoe up the Orinoco River, Casighiare, down the Rio Negro, all the way to the Amazon. Just a couple friends with a little tour guide on a boat. That's another story. I went to see the Salto Ángel, the biggest waterfall. I spent almost a year traveling. I separated from my friend. I went to Colombia, I went to Ecuador. I climbed the Cotopaxi. We were like 10 people that morning, only 3 made it up there. I literally dragged my tour guide up there on a peak that's 20,000 feet high. So I had good lungs, I got a lot of stamina. I picked up Spanish on the way. I traveled to northern Colombia. I hiked Ciudad Perdida, the lost city, for 6 days. And then I flew to Panama. Traveled every country. Actually worked in Costa Rica for a little shop. I actually brought some tourists to a waterfall on horseback. I didn't even know English back then.
Was that in Arenal?
Arenal, yeah. Ciudad Fortuna, back in 1980. People wanted to keep me there, but I had to keep going north to Mexico City, which I would meet my girlfriend who just had finished her apprentice as a seamstress. And then she wanted to go to Canada. She had an uncle up there, so I traveled all the way to the United States from Mexico City, and I bought a little station wagon. I drove all the way to Alaska, all the way to see Mount McKinley, or had a different name. Yeah, it was back then, not Denali, it was Mount McKinley. Then I went back, British Columbia, crossed old Canada to Newfoundland, and then I crossed back I came in by Maine. I crossed about 40 states in my little station wagon. And then I went back.
Like the main thing I'm thinking is like, wow, this dude has done so many things.
I drove in Venezuela. I know how that country worked. Had a little Corsel for the cheapest gas in Venezuela back then. That's another thing. I can't believe that Venezuela is on the ground. Basically the richest country in their soil. But anyway, I got to see a little bit the world. I went back home, worked for a little shop. Actually, before I left, I worked for Victor Swiss Army Knife Company as a CNC operator, and I was the youngest working in Maho with Phillips control. And I left there because I didn't want to retire there on the same machine. I wanted to start seeing the world. That's why I went to a trip. And then I reapplied. I came actually to this country legal, which sounds ridiculous, because everybody else comes in illegal. Legal means they ask in Switzerland, you're going to get approved by the American consulate in Switzerland. You cannot just sneak in and have all kinds of excuses. I had to do a physical. I had to show an AIDS test. I had a printout from the Interpol, International Police, that I'm not a criminal. I had to pay for my own paperwork. I had to have a recommendation from a shop in California, which was Jacob Herzog, who gave me the opportunity to work for him. And at the Enza College, I was signed up, so I waited a half a year to get a visa. It was an unlimited visa. I guess they like workers like me, and I could, extend it as long as I wanted. But anyway.
And what year was this?
1994.
1994. Okay, so you came to the United States roughly in 94.
In 94.
Okay.
Went to the Enza College and Foothill College in the Bay Area, where all the computers are. I learned a little bit computers. Got my first computer. I worked in Switzerland already on a Commodore 46, 64
for
CNC. But I never gave up. I always, people sometimes make fun of me. Why do you want to go to school? Why do you want to do this? I did this on the side. I went up to the Skyline Boulevard there by Los Gatos. I did my homework. Went to school even Saturday. I did the clean car classes, which was very tough to get the smog license to test cars for the smog, because California has so much strict laws. It's ridiculous, right? But anyway, I did that too. I graduated on all domestic cars. I'm a good diagnostician. Then I worked for Piercy Toyota, one of the biggest Toyota dealerships, former Penske. It's probably a name you guys know. Mm-hmm. And then through a guy from school from Bolivia, I met my Hispanic wife from Mexico. I fell in love with a Latin woman. In Switzerland we don't have Latin women with long hair and high heels. So I fell in love with a beautiful woman. But we did not want to raise a family. I got married in Mexico, in Cuernavaca, where she was from. And I didn't want to raise a family in the Bay Area. So my wife had a friend in Farmington at the San Juan College. She said, come check out the land of enchantment. Come and see New Mexico, which I did. I got married in 95. I came here in 97 to check out New Mexico.
And so you didn't originally move to Santa Fe, correct? You probably moved to the Farmington area, I'm guessing, first.
No, I came here to check it out. I took a vacation in 97 in the summer, went to White Sand with my wife, came to New Mexico, to Santa Fe to look at housings. I fell in love right away with the outdoors. I didn't even think about cultures that much. I know I was Hispanic. I thought, wow, that fits. I'm married to a Hispanic woman. I do a big favor to them. I pick up more Spanish, and life is going to be beautiful. I did buy a little house. I saved all the money and actually bought in Tierra Contenta for about $100,000 a house for cash from my savings. I worked since 1982, had some savings. which might seem rare to you, but I always worked 45 hours a week, at least 40 hours, put some money on the side, fixed everything myself. I bought this little house. I worked for Sr Toyota. They hired me. First, when I came in, I put some money down on a house in 97.
Okay, 97.
And Christmas, I came back with an application to drop off at Sr with Anthony West. And I said, he said, no, we need a Ford technician, Lincoln Mercury, and we do also Toyotas, even though I was a Toyota tech. And then the house was still in construction, it was completed. I moved here I checked in January. Of course, the house was the wrong color, the windows were broken. My application was tossed in the garbage outside the Toyota. It was like the first little red flags. And where the lady said, in your house, nobody will do a two-story in front. You will have a nice view on the mountain. Guess what? I came back and it was a two-story house in front of my house. Those are just little red signs. And she said, no, the schools are beautiful there. And here the Cesar Chavez is a really good school, and the Capital High School. And everything was growing, I came here, started working for Sr Toyota. And guess what? I had to do all the Ford and Lincoln Mercurys and all the Toyotas. I was the only guy.
And at this point, had you had any kids?
No, my wife was pregnant at that time. Because we planned a family in 98. Then I changed jobs, and Ari from Mastertech, Ford specialist, hired me right away. I worked for him about 5.5 years. Viktor-Daniel was born June 8, 1999. I worked very hard. My wife wanted a bigger house. She said she wanted to have a little childcare. So Mr. Hicks from Tierra Contenta sold me another house. They never told me that there is a low-income program. I could actually get a house for cheaper and apply. I made about $30,000 back then, which is not really that great. A big pay cut from California. But anyway, I went on, worked for Ari, averaged 12.5 hours a day for about 5.5 years on flat rate. Worked my butt off. And one day my wife said, I'm not happy here anymore, I want to go to California. Actually, first she had a little childcare for a year or two, and her dad moved in as a vacation, but guess what? He never moved out. So I got a burden, right? Working hard for basically maintaining 2 houses, learning, adjusting to the people, the culture, but I took full advantage of the outdoors. I hiked every mountain here, Truchas Peak, skied with my son. I hiked to Lake Johnson, Lake Catherine, Lake Williams, Wheeler Peak, Sierra Blanca, White Sand, Carlsbad Cavern. I took my son as Abiquiu and scouting to Elk Mountain.
How old was your son when you did that?
Yeah, from 3 years up, 4 years, 9 years when he hiked.
So you were very
I carried him with a 40-pound backpack. I carried him on my shoulder.
So you were very active with him even when he was very young?
Yeah, skied. Our big thing was trail riding. I discovered, wow, I don't have to go to Italy to practice motocross. I can go to Bachman and ride 50 miles. I got somehow with Jason Jenkins from a little machine shop back. He sold me an old Yamaha, and then it was 4-stroke. I didn't ride for 17 years. I got back into it to a point. I signed up in 2015. I won the Desert Race Championship in my class. Smoked all the young kids too. Under that motocross track here, I won the Ironman and the shootout, and they stole my trophy. They lied about my time, which I had on camera.
Wow.
So they stole that from me too. But anyway, I never had any bad intention to anybody except raising a beautiful son, which was a surprise baby. He was born a boy. I was happy, How can you not? But my wife one day said, no, I just want to go back to California. So we separated, and somebody said, no, you better file for legal separation, otherwise you're not going to see your son anymore. So I kind of took advice to save me and my son, but I gave my wife the bigger house, and I kept my little house and kept going. That's, Viktor-Daniel. When he was about pre-K, I mean, he was not even 4 years old. So my son was always in school. And that you see, I'm not lying here. This is let me see here if I find. I would see him every lunch. I would pack my sandwich and go to see him every lunch. I had a little bed for him, a pillow. He brushed his teeth. I would not take the lunch. I brought my own. But I saw them, how he developed. He could see me fall asleep. I go back to work. I did this for 2 years.
So every lunch break, you're leaving the shop and you're going to go visit your son at school. What school was that?
Where the college is called the Early Childhood Development.
It's at the Santa Fe Community College?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's they had one spot open, and actually my wife just dropped them off, and she left them. It was good. You have to understand, my son was my only family here. And, he was my pillar. He was my drive. Keep going every day. Marnie across the street worked for French and French. He said, no, if you're Catholic, there's a good Catholic school. It's downtown, but they have very little openings. It's St. Francis School. Mm-hmm. So when he was in the time of, because what happened? This beautiful Cesar Chavez School and all this, those schools were on probation. They were about ready to be closed. That's how bad the schools were. So what options do I have? Here I'm in Tierra Contenta. My wife wants a private school to show off. But I like the idea of a Catholic school. So I'm sitting there in February.
And you are Catholic. I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. You were born and raised Catholic.
Yeah,
and
most of Central Switzerland is Catholic.
And you're practicing today?
Yes, I'm practicing today. My son was baptized in Mexico, and I'm part of the Santa Maria de la Paz. I'm a member.
Okay.
And then I went to the St. Francis School, but that school actually, I went there in the morning at 2 o'clock and camped out to get a spot in the cold. It was really cold. We went, he went to kindergarten there. I always drove the Bill 599 every morning. I drove up there and brought him to the school, first grade too. And then they closed the school, but they built the Santo Niño Regional Catholic School by the Santa Maria de la Paz Church right next door. So that was convenient to me, a brand new school, cost me some money, but I was never stingy because it was like child support. My wife said, no, you pay the school, you don't have to pay child support. But it was a joke. Anyway, my son was with me. I cooked a warm meal every night. I'm not lying. I had my Swiss cookbook. My sisters, they sent me recipes. And I made it happen. I was never lazy to get up in the morning and go shopping. So my son had his lunch. I never asked the government to pay my son lunch. I was able to pay my own peanut butter sandwich or whatever. I went to every field day with my son all those years. Even helped the kids show how to play soccer. I can say I did voluntary work for the church, cleaning up all the yards on my Saturdays by myself with the garbage bag and stuff like that. My son was into basketball. I never played basketball. He was actually a fourth grader. He was so good in basketball. He scored more than half of the points and he was a year younger than everybody because the cutoff date is like after June, right? He was born June 8th. So him being born in 1999, he went to school mostly with the kids from 98. I remember from Garcia Tires, when my son went to Santo Niño School, I think the Garcia family looking for a school for Luke, for their son. And the wife, Lucia, she said, the first kid that embraced my son Luke was your son. In second grade, that was second grade when the Santo Niño School kind of started from the beginning. And my son graduated. at the Santonino school. Viktor-Daniel was a cute kid. He was always the center of attention. I'm not kidding. The teacher told me once, there were 11 girls in the class. They had 2 classes and 10 boys. Every break, there were about 9 to 10 girls around Viktor-Daniel. He was really a cute little kid, and his personality, the kids just liked him, But also, when the kids liked him too much, they would go around the corner, give him kisses and stuff. And then about two months before graduation from Santonino school, a girl pushed him backwards off the jungle gym. So he completely bent his arm backwards, had a very gruesome injury. And when it was time to go to St. Mike's school, he could not really do sports, and it was like a shame because my intention was, okay, this is a sports school on the Catholic school, and I want my kid to be in sports because he was good in basketball, but he kind of lost interest in that, and he had to go through surgeries, remove scar tissue and stuff like this, which kind of affected him. He always had access to his mom. When he was 6.5 years old, his little half-sister Alicia was born, which I always embraced. I actually took her to Mexico City to the part of the family so she can be baptized. And actually, 3 days ago, she had her 18th birthday. And she got kicked out by her family too, and I took her in last year, and I'm still keeping an eye on them because otherwise she's might not be alive tomorrow. She's in the risk group of suicide. That's another kid I basically saved, and I haven't given up on her. She's not my kid, but I always treated her like my daughter. It's important.
Good for you.
Did she have a pretty close relationship with your son?
Yeah. You can see on those pictures over there. She had she called him Juanito. And actually, before my son's life was taken, she would have that month 2 sleepover at my house with my son. And I always offered her food and stuff. Unfortunately, after my son has passed away, my wife had remarried. But what happened, that dude abused my son's half-sister and split. She's on the run even now. Can you imagine? She goes to trauma, loses her brother. Trauma. Her dad was deported, the real dad, unjust, lost her dad when she was about 3 years old, so to speak. You making kids feel they are the problem of this world, which they're not. All the problems in this world is anyway made by adults. Alcohol is made by adults. Drugs are made by adults. Pistols are made by adults. Wars are made by adults. And guess who pays for it? Our kids. We have to stop blaming our kids and make them feel like they are a problem. We designed an environment. You get in this life what you put in for our youth. If you put in junk, you don't invest in our kids. This murder stuff, homicide, suicide, which I didn't know, is caused by our environment, how we design our environment, how our priorities are in the community. What happened to my son to continue about his life and schools? All of a sudden, I thought my son is in a good Catholic school. I didn't know this school actually hires people, teachers are not Catholic. This is already a big mistake. One day he comes home, he said, Dad, they have edibles that feel pretty good in my stomach. They have edibles with marijuana. I never seen edibles marijuana. First time I have ever seen marijuana, I was in a customer's car outside of Toyota in the glove compartment. People laughed at me, I didn't know about marijuana.
What grade was he in at that time?
7th grade, and he was a year younger.
So he's at St. Mike's in 7th grade.
And what happened, he said I have mushrooms. He said, that's senior. Can you imagine you're a 7th grader, senior, that's about a 6-7 year difference. A senior came up to me and said, hey, little guy, you want to be high? or get high. I don't know what high is. I was never drunk in my life. I don't drink alcohol. I never tried marijuana. I did nothing of this crap. I just think this is evil stuff. It doesn't go with cross-country running or endurance or raising a family. You have to be a good example in this world, and this is the bottom line. I wouldn't be a good technician because I'm too honest. You know, people wouldn't like me. They would probably kill me. But anyway, I went to St. Mike's. I went to complain about it because I was promised this is a drug-free school. And my son said, no, you know, that this is the kid's uncle bringing drugs in. So I complained, and then they turned it on me. They said next day, oh, we saw your son smoke E6 in the bathroom, which was not true. First of all, when you have a school, you have to check your locker, your hallways, your bathrooms, your property, because it's a private school. When my son leaves in the morning, my doorstep, and it's drug-free, he goes out of my drug-free environment, my drug-free family. I ask society to be respectful to me and the school, not to induce or entice my little kid to marijuana. Yes, you can check your backpacks, every kid that goes in, you can check his pockets.
What year was this when he was in 7th grade at St. Mike's?
7th grade, okay. He was about 11 years old, because he was a little bit younger.
So this was what, 2011?
Yeah, 2012. He graduated in 2017, actually, before he was 18. But anyway, I was to a point I called the cops and showed them picture from a little marijuana, little box, which my son brought home on a picture. When I showed it on my little computer at home, when the cops left, my son said, you know what? The cops was laughing at you behind your back because you make a big deal about marijuana. So my son got the message from a cop, yeah, this is not a big deal. But for me, the problem is with marijuana, this glorifying drugs, it's an entry drug. It doesn't stop there. It's an evil plant which is glorified in every CBD shop. It's garbage. You guys out there, listen to me. It's brainwashing garbage in the United States, everywhere. It's not a culture, it's evil. And you know, alcohol is the same thing. In my opinion, I guess my opinion doesn't count. In New Mexico, more people died on causes that are alcohol related than COVID. I changed school. My son wanted to go to ATC. I didn't know ATC, something about art, technology, and classics. My son, every time when I picked them up at 5, they were smoking in their yard again, E6, doing drugs.
Is this school still operating today?
It's still operating today, and it's promoted. I think the principal is from Texas or who knows what, but anyway.
And it's considered a charter school,
It's a charter school, ATC, okay. So my son didn't learn anything there. Luckily, he had a lot of credits from St. Mike's, but he finished up and graduated at Santa Fe High School eventually. My son was very smart intellectually. For example, at St. Mike's, if I give him lunch money, they would let the kids go out to Walgreens. My son would buy little Cokes and little chips, and he would sell and make some money. He had this was just Viktor-Daniel. He was an entrepreneur. He was a Gemini. He had, you know, it's like, he was different than me. He was very quick with typing. He was very smart. Like, he could figure out things. He could tell you the odds of poker, you know, stuff. Mom gave him a phone. I never gave my son a cell phone, but he learned a lot of stuff on his phone. And he was very mesmerized, or very, how you say, like, he really liked this CBD culture. He fell into this New Mexico, Santa Fe. He said, Dad, what's wrong with CBD? It helps little kids with seizures. There was always an argument. I didn't want this stuff in my house. But he learned. Every little girlfriend he had a marijuana card. How does a 15-year-old, 16-year-old need a marijuana card?
And this was before it was legal, right?
I don't know if it was legal or not. I mean, this is like, doesn't really matter. People do here legal or not legal.
They had it, at one
Yeah,
point it was medical marijuana,
Yeah,
but it was not for public consumption. And then a
Yeah.
few years back, then they made it for public consumption.
I didn't, I gave so little attention. I wasn't street smart, first of all. I didn't think my son would be in danger. If you ask me about drugs, I would say, yeah, heroin, cocaine, what you see in the movies are drugs. I didn't know pills are drugs, but my son started experimenting with pills. He lost about 25 pounds. I could see every rib from my son on his body, and I saved him. I was so scared, I went to the DA's office and talked to, I believe it was Irene or Vanessa. And my son was already turned 20, and I said, I don't want to lose my son. And they just sent me home. Nobody showed me the cemetery or the OMI. Nobody told me New Mexico receives 80 dead kids, 80 to 100 dead people with suicide, homicides, or overdose. This is the reality of the OMI. It's labeled there like university laboratory. What it is an awful morgue where young people, normal healthy people die and they be brought there for autopsy. That's what that is in Albuquerque, OMI. Anyway.
Well, and just Victor, just
Yeah.
real quick, I mean, just from talking to you in the past, I know that this is kind of, starting this light drug use and hanging around with some people was kind of, I think in your mind, the beginning of things. And then your son started switching to more serious things like pills. And I think that's kind of where things spiraled out of control. Is that correct?
Yeah, what happened, I knew most of his friends because I was part through elementary, high school. He started going around with what you call the bad crowd, with the drugs. But there were a lot of them. Even good kids would go to the park and smoke. He said one time, I went with Santi there and other kids, and we smoked this stuff, and then we gave the cops wanted the stuff. He said he wouldn't say anything if we gave him the marijuana, so he left. This is crazy too. I didn't know at that time that my son still hangs out over at mom's much, but I can probably not say this in the camera, but there were some individual knew that I think my son wanted to make money and help his mom selling some kind of pills. I still up today. I'm suspicious. I don't have enough evidence. Just people telling me. I think my son met that guy who actually murdered him 2 months earlier. Mm-hmm. I can tell you exact the date. I found videos on this individual's bed with prescription pills, $20 bills. The Beretta pistol has eventually murdered my son. I got that on the video. I found that out too. But anyway, my son tried to make money, I believe, and got together with this guy. And I think that guy got jealous. And my son went to his classmate and said, 2 weeks before he got murdered, he said, this guy wants to murder me. And even that guy, my son's friend, I worked on his bike. He didn't tell me. I worked on his Ninja. I've helped people. But it's tragic. I think it could have been prevented. He met this individual, a 6-7-year-old kid, not kid, an adult. My son was 20 then, not even 21. He met a guy from Santa Fe who was arrested about 17 times since 2012 and was on probation for bad stuff for 2 months, and he goes and murders my son. He said he will go and kill the kid. Okay. One day my son came home and he said, Dad, I will eat the salad later. That was November 19, 2019. I know exactly. It was about 7 o'clock. I found out what happened before, where he stopped, where he met up with the guy. He was actually then seen with this guy at mom's house. Vicente came home the girl was outside, it was 10 o'clock. The guy covered his head with his hoodie. The murderer was already in my son's little Camry. My son went inside the house and, told his sister, he will be right back. He will have to go to El Dorado. I think they tried to trick him to go to El Dorado because he told his girlfriend too, and he told other people. But my son was afraid of that guy. He had to return something. He didn't really want to meet up, but he picked him up, I believe, at Sprite Park, which that guy was hanging out at Guyana Chin with 20 other people in a drug house. I didn't even know a drug house existed. The guy drove off with my son, never made it to El Dorado. Instead, he went in the area, a little street by Governor Miles and Richardson. There is an intersection. And when you go a little bit straight on Governor Miles, it's a little street, Manford, which leads to this guy who murdered my son, to his grandma's house, where she was brought up. This guy, I found this out from lady friends. The detective, found out much more than the detective. I know where my son was murdered and the kind of what happened. But anyway, my son was driving. It was more like about 10:40. The guy, it was a one-way dirt road. Some houses are kind of separated. The guy Viktor made a U-turn and stopped, okay? So that guy already planned to kill Viktor-Daniel at that point, okay, because he threatened him before. But my son was like this, in the car, relaxed, talking to him. My son had no pistol, okay, nothing, just a normal conversation. The seat was back. I got the car back. That's why I know. I got his jacket here. I will show you this in a little bit. So this guy had obviously a conversation. The guy had a pistol here. He told somebody in jail. Viktor-Daniel did not see it coming. Okay. So this guy was listening to a song, or they both listened to a song from a guy, from a rap song from a very young kid from Florida. His name is YNW Melly. And they were listening to the song. It's called Murder in My Mind. So this guy is here in the passenger seat in my son's 2000 Burgundy Camry, listening to this song. So he had the pistol here, okay? He listened to this song. That's what kids listen to nowadays, rap song. It's all legal. Yellow tape around his body. It's a fucking homicide. His face is on a t-shirt and his family is traumatized. I didn't even mean to shoot him. He just caught me by surprise. I reloaded my pistol, cocked it back and shot it twice. His body dropped down to the floor and he had teardrops in his eyes. That's how is my son, right? Later. He grabbed me by his hands and said he was afraid to die. I told him, it's too late, my friend, it's time to say goodbye. And he died inside my arms, blood all on my shirt. Walked up in the morning, I got murder on my mind. AK-47, Mac-2, Glocks on 9s. Bitch, I'm a murderer. I might just kill the boy. Don't wanna kill the boy. Bake him up, say he want beef, we gonna grill the boy. I'm looking so good, I'm kill his ass. Hand me the stadible. So what happened, this guy was listening to this song. What I think would happen, I got little things here. This was how my son died, okay. He died in this jacket with 10 shots.
He was shot 10 times, huh?
What happened? My son must have heard how he cocked the pistol. My son took his hand, he always had his sleeves rolled up, okay? I got this jacket back, I wanted to know what happened. got the car back, the mirror was missing. So my son heard the cock, because he was like a friend, right? He was not an enemy, so to speak. At least he was just a sociopath. My son must have hit the mirror. He knocked the mirror down. I got the mirror back. He still had this little Swiss Army knife with his name engraved on there. So my son must have hit the guy in shock that this guy wants to kill him, right? So he got grazed. He got shot 2 times and then the pistol jammed. Why the pistol jammed? I think because he hit that Beretta 9mm so hard. My son almost made it, but he got, see this? He got grazed. He almost made it. He got grazed with the first bullet. He grazed his chest, went through his leg and out the door. Okay, this is only 1 shot so far missed out of these 10 shots. He shot another one, went through his chest plate, all the way through and stopped in the skin. You can see a yellow dot. I found this 2 years out later when I went to see pictures of the RMI. After these 2 shots, my son tried to get out of the seatbelt. I know because there is blood on the seatbelt. And he shattered my son's arm here on 2 spots, completely shattered. The way my son was found, his elbow was like double elbowed up like this. The bullets, those were 2 bullets, and then another shot through, injured his lungs and artery a little bit. He started bleeding out. Then this guy, just to show you, okay, this is the blood from the broken arm, okay? This is real, okay?
My gosh.
And he had a black undershirt. It seeped through the black undershirt. So, this was not enough. My son slopped forward. So he shot my son 3 times in the back. See those holes in the back here?
I do see them.
Okay. And then, if this is not first-degree murder, I don't know. He got charged with second-degree murder. But what happened at this point, you know, when people are shot, they don't just drop dead like in the movies, okay, unless you're shot in the head. So this guy who murdered my son, he left the car, opened the driver's door. My son was on the iPhone, called his mom. That's why I know when my son died. It was 10:46.
So he's shot this many times and he tries to call his mom.
He called his mom for 10 seconds. She didn't pick up. She was at the shower. It was 10:46. He called Alicia for 3 seconds. This guy goes around. That's why the detective asked me which side did he had his eye watch. He shot him because my son he shot him in a big wound in the eye watch. And I guess where the shot, I couldn't find it. Guess where the shot went? The shot ricocheted and went into this hoodie, okay? The cops never told me that either. When shots miss, they have to go somewhere, okay?
Right.
See his hoodie. The shot went in, out, and then, you know, like an accordion. He had this jacket on, and the hoodie here. So the shot went in and out, and ended up, because it's double here, ended up in the hoodie, okay? And that was not enough, okay? It was not enough. You know, at this point, they only gave me the report, and I couldn't read it. I'm not an autopsy guy, but it says he was shot at left from the center line. I guess what? When he went around, he shot him 1 more time from the left side, all the way through to the liver. That was shot number 10, okay? So, you know, the first, he said in jail, he bragged, he said, I shot the guy first to the leg. That's why I know people talk to me. Wives from people in jail, they didn't even know me, they called me and they gave me a little bit of information, detectives information. So the first shot grazed, he got shot in here, he got shot in the upper arm, he tried to get out, he couldn't get out. Then the guy shoots him in the back, he goes around, shoots him 2 more times, then he pushes Viktor-Daniel over the center console. Why I know there's a blood stain, my son died over the center console, his head on the passenger seat. There was a link of his gold chain still on the passenger seat because he ripped off one of his little gold chains where he had from his birth. Okay, he sits on top of Viktor-Daniel and goes to a drug house. He walks into a drug house and says, "Did you hear the kid I just killed and took all his shit?" Okay, then you had a guy named Mr. Benavides, like a 45-year-old, followed him. You know, the guy went from the drug house, asked for help, so he drove with the dead body around. He drove there by Richardson Avenue in a little sandy dirt road next to the I-25 in underneath juniper trees. And the guy followed him with the GMC truck, which is a liar. He helped him carry out the body, which nobody knows except me because his daughter talked. My son was not found for 17 days. Then the guy went to the Ace hardware store and stole a military-looking tarp. That's how he was hiding. Then he went with gloves, cleaning up the whole car to get rid of evidence. Okay? And I was looking like crazy for my son. You know, I had a tip. There was a Camry scene up in Hernandez. I went up there 4 days. I must have lost about freaking 12 pounds.
So you were looking for your son for over 2 weeks?
For 17 days. And I gathered all the information, and at the end, 2 ladies actually called me and said, "Look behind, or the guy who murdered my son's grandma's house." So the cops, they were already there. "You have to come to the station." So they beat me by 1 hour. I would have found my own son. But what really is crazy, I cracked the case because I brought in evidence. Luckily, a friend, you know, I got lied to by the detective, first of all, okay? They said, yeah, you know, the detective was actually friend with the murderer's dad. So he just charged him with second-degree murder, even though this detective was at the autopsy. He knew my son was shot. He was at the autopsy, 4.5 hours. He knew he was not just, he said he was just a guy who was high and you boom, 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 and he killed his son. That's not true. The detective must have known he ran around when he had injury of both sides, right? This is, when you pause after 2 shots, it's already first-degree murder because you have time to think about it.
This is about intent, and obviously that individual had intent.
This individual had intent. I have enough evidence of that. He was jealous. He was a jealous individual. I have proof of that too. Even after 7, when they found my son, they took him to the OMI, and I did not have access another 10 days to information. Or they said they cannot tell me where they found your son. He did not tell me on the map. He says, yeah, somewhere over here, you know, on the Google map, there by, you know, the freeway. Mm-hmm. So they were misleading me, but I think I had all the right to know. But they said, no, you can find out after trial. I had to get 2 special prosecutors, 2 ladies from Albuquerque to get really this guy convicted. But anyway, that guy Josh had a video from 2 months before the murder on a Saturday late at night after 8 o'clock, which this guy was, those both were unloading 7 cartridges on a sandy spot. And I went with him. I said, where was it? I was staking out the ground. I sent the detectives out, and I marked the tree because I had bullet holes in there. At this time, I did not know that they found my son there. Can you imagine? I got actually those 7 cartridges from the same pistol that murdered my son, which were flagged when they found my son. I saw pictures later. They had yellow flags. I actually finished the puzzle. You know, I got a video where he was target shooting, and then when he shot my son in the car, some cartridges, empty cartridges, pop out, right, on a pistol. They were going over the dash, and he did not clean those up. He forgot about 4 cartridges, and they were the same match as the cartridges which he was target shooting 2 months earlier. And I guess what? When I said, which direction did you shoot? His friend, he said, over there. I walked over there. There were bullets in this juniper tree. And I guess what? They had to get permission. 2 weeks later, I went out there were complete bullets there. They said, "No, Victor, you did this unbelievable job. Those bullets matched your son's body too." I had it on video.
Wow.
But you know, this is not. I'm not a detective. But
And this is also in the height of the lockdowns from COVID-19, right? November 19, 2019.
Yeah, you have to understand. I'm somewhat a spiritual person, and I believe, and adults do this garbage and stuff. Adults pay for the garbage they do in life in this world. And I think I call my son the Santonino because Father Daniel called him also Santonino. He was one of the Santoninos. And he killed my Santonino. I put it on the headstone. And this COVID started right about the day after my son got murdered. But anyway, it's not just that. He talked, he went to the casinos. He said somebody shot the homie. How did he know? If Viktor-Daniel was not even found. He walked around with my son's car key. The guy did not have a car. He told his best friends his darkest secret that he shot Viktor-Daniel. You know, he in the field, they took the other chain from where he was baptized to the little hamlet, you know, with the, you know, Corazón de Jesús and the Virgin Mary. And this guy went to melt this stuff in a pawn shop for $40, and the receipt was found. Okay, and I got that gold back for my son, all melted. And there was all other evidence. And you know what? They were seen on a camera in the cul-de-sac. A car goes in 11:45 that night. And another grey truck follows. And they came to my shop detective. "You're a mechanic. Do you know what kind of car? We only have the brake lights." I knew it was not a Ford. They have bigger side, you know, beds. I knew it was not a Toyota, so it was some kind of a Chevy product. I guess what? Somebody tipped me and they said, "Go over there." A day after my son's funeral, I went with a flashlight and I took a picture of a grey truck with a license plate that was stolen. The truck was bought for $200 and in front of a drug house. I turned that in. I guess what? In that grey truck, it was the truck that was following him into the field. The jumper wires from my son's Camry were found in that truck on the other stuff. So I found that truck. And so they went back in the drug house and said, "Hey, you need to talk." He said, "Yeah, I followed the guy that murdered your son, but I didn't see anything because I got stuck." It's not true. It was a four-wheel drive truck. This guy actually helped carry Viktor-Daniel out of the truck dead. You know that
they left the car there too, right?
Yeah. For the car was there. My son's body was a little bit backwards under a tarp, and I did not know that they found him there. I went then in January with the guy Josh and take pictures of I was interested where they did the target shooting. I took many pictures, and later I never got any pictures. I actually found 2 years later I asked for crime scene photos from the OMI, not from the police. I got my hair standing up. I can believe it. It was the same spot they were target shooting. Okay, nobody ever told me this. And you know how I know? In this video where this Josh shot, there was a juniper tree that had like a fork. And you can see it. I put it out there. And then when I had this OMI pictures, the same juniper tree with the same fork in the branches was there. Dude, this is like, they found my son where they were target shooting. So they matched the video on the place where they found my son matched. So then the detective, one time he said, "What do you have? Come after work." So he took me upstairs and I opened my backpack. So this time he made a mistake because I had all these pictures where I had evidence this guy was target shooting in a place, but I still did not know. They never told me where they found my son. But I was watched behind these black glasses, and he did like a swap, DNA swap, you know, like sorting me out, and I put this stuff on the table. But this time Guerrero could not help the criminal, right? the detective, because he was in a team. But anyway, after I found out on Mother's Day where they killed my son, because I still didn't know where they killed him, where they found him, where they killed him was two different places. Some of James's, or the guy that killed my son's girlfriend, drove with another lady friend. He said, look, he showed me there, he said he made a U-turn and he just killed him. And I went to this place, they drove me there, I had a recorder in here. For 1 hour I recorded what they had to say about this guy's girlfriend. And I turned that in next Monday. And guess what? A day later, the detective retired. I asked him, there was a court order for my son's second phone. He said, yeah, we have the phone. So I went to ask my son's mom, where's the phone? She said, no, I have it. So, and he said he will work, his FBI body in Bernalillo will work on to locate possibility where they murdered his son. They're working on this. Guess what? 2 years later, from Carrie Morisset, she's actually the same prosecutor who actually works on Baldwin's case. You remember that actor? Carrie Morisset and Mrs. Moss, very intelligent ladies, come in and said, you know what? He said, Victor, we cannot change the first-degree murder because of COVID. And we can go two ways. We come to a place, either we go to a trial, which if there is one not case in the jury, you might lose, or we accept the plea deal. You know what we're going to do? For second-degree murder, it's like 15 years. And for this guy having an illegal weapon, another year. And for hiding my son's, tampering with evidence, hiding your son for 17 days, another 5 years. So from 21 years, we're going to do 16 plus 5. So he has to do 16 years. When he comes home, he is on parole and probation 5 years. And for violent crimes, they have to do at least 85%. So he is in there now 4 years and 2 months, and he has to do at least another 9 years. So he will be maybe out by 13 and a half years. That's my calculation. I don't really know where he's at. That's another thing they never told me. They said he will be incarcerated in New Mexico. I don't get any satisfaction about this. But there were other people at the drug house and said, go kill the kid. There were other people, to blame on. But it's not like we're in Wisconsin or somewhere where there's a really thorough investigation, My son's skateboard was missing. Detectives say, yeah, I know the family. I can ask his aunts. He gave it away right there. That he was, the detective was covering up for this guy because his friend's hijito, not supposed to be in jail, right? Because he got out every time. But anyway, at least this time, this guy was social media. It came to the day where it was the sentencing. And, this guy was seen on the camera in jail when he had visitors. Somehow he had crime scene photos from his attorney. He was still showing off how he killed my son. He was still bragging about it. And you know what really gets me in this society, this world? When he was sentencing, I had a good team, my counselor. I did my speech. I took photos. I prepped. I had Carrie Morisset, smart ladies there. What really got me, because of COVID, not everybody could go inside, but I had a big monitor in the hallway. This guy who murdered my son had a whole fan club there. Okay, it's almost like it's cool to murder somebody, and as more gruesome as it is, it was a heinous crime. As better it is. This really bothered me. Okay. I finally got my son a headstone. His mom doesn't go to the cemetery, nobody has already forgotten. But I got him a nice headstone, as big as I was allowed to do it. A nice headstone, a polished black granite from India, with all his pictures on there. And I guess what, last week I bought for $180 a vase. They stole his vase on the cemetery at the Rosario, row 15. You know, they don't even leave him alone at the cemetery, okay? And I made him a headstone, and I didn't want to just fill the headstone with a bunch of crosses and angels and R.I. rest in peace. We already know it's a Catholic cemetery. I wanted to have something very special. You know, I made this, I didn't have help. I went 3 times. They helped me design it in Albuquerque. But anyway, you know, you have to understand, my son got me into flying. He did a discovery flight, but he wanted helicopter. My son was already flying helicopter in Albuquerque at the vertical limit. He was a very talented kid. And I always introduced him to good stuff. If I find this, I know I will. Here, I made him this headstone here. And you know, I put it on, those are amile embedded, covered little stainless steel plates with Viktor Daniel flying a helicopter with my family crest, Gisler. That's the only cross. It's basically a sword.
That's your family crest?
Mm-hmm. Gisler. It's the biggest name in central Switzerland. Here I told his story about Viktor Daniel, which a lot of his friends did this just starting. Viktor Daniel was loved to the fullest and always gave his all. His kindness was never to be mistaken for weakness. His calmness not to be mistaken for acceptance. His silence never be mistaken for ignorance. You know, Viktor took pride in helping and protecting others by sharing his experience and knowledge. Viktor was very caring and touched people's hearts with his charm and personalities. His beautiful smile and laugh lifted up any bad energy from a room. We could truly feel his happiness flow through the atmosphere when he was around. His love for family and friends ran deeper than the ocean, and he was always ready to be someone's hero. His bewitching good Swiss and Mexican look were the icing on his favorite cheesecake. For over 20 years, he gave us a lot of joy and happiness. You know, we are so deeply sorry that this ill society poisoned you. We are so deeply sorry and ashamed that your life was cut short by an evil coward, a monster, when you were brutally shot 10 times. As your father, I wish I could have taken the pain and suffering from you. It bothers us every day. We are sorry that you were trapped by fake friends. Viktor Daniel was such a smart and wonderful son. The world was a better place with him in it. All of us are missing you forever. We know that you are watching over us, and we will see you in heaven, our Santo Niño. And I put here, brutally murdered for no reason other than envy and jealousy. We love and miss you forever, beautiful heart. Try to keep it simple.
Viktor, I'm so sorry. I have one question for you, and then maybe if JD does,
I have his pants here
and
too,
then we
I
can
was shot through.
I want to know what the record of the guy that shot him was. Had he been, or I think you had already mentioned this once, he had been arrested before.
17 times.
17 times, I believe, for extortion. This guy
were any of those violent crimes?
He tried to kill his own family members. He robbed his aunts. He stole the car key. He said he stole his, I think, his brother's computer. He said he will slice his throat and stuff like that. You know, he always got away. And you know why killing Viktor Daniel, the only smart kid who could have been a friend, who could have freaking taught him something in life? This guy who killed my son was in Albuquerque living there, always got away, dealing with pistols, all bad stuff. He was a really bad guy. My son maybe tried to become, because of watching Netflix, you know, all those kids watch that guy, you know, that guy from Mexico, you know, what's his name? That guy that's incarcerated, that's a big hero for them, right?
Narcos.
Yeah, Narcos, you know, it's a big problem. They're looking up to those Netflix movies, and what I notice in our youth is very sad. When you ask the kid nowadays, they say, yeah, I don't want to live more than 20 years. You know, where does this come from? This brainwashing culture. You know, I embrace life. You know, I might live as long as my dad, who is 97 this year, who still drives in Switzerland. But you know, you get a secondary loss, you know, when you lose a kid. You know, it's strange, you know, people don't want to associate with you. They think it's your fault, losing a kid.
So sorry, man.
You know, I want to ask society, you know, how do you protect your son when you're working at your workplace? 10-hour days and you don't know what's going on out there. There is a saying, you know, there's a saying, right? It takes a village to raise your kid. But you know, this village murdered my kid.
You had said something earlier about this story, and I think why it matters, and well, it matters.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. People don't care nowadays about my probably opinions.
Well, they do, because they have to understand that this didn't just happen to your son. It happens to a lot of children, and it happens here in our community.
This is a sin, and you're right. I'm not the only guy. I found out at the cemetery. This Jean Paul got murdered. This Cordova got murdered. This Enrique got murdered. This guy outdoors kids. He always goes hunting with his dad. He got overdosed. This is a graveyard of young people. Okay,
That's right.
These are not people who outlived and have natural cause of death. I did not know this. I feel stupid. I did not know this. I always was so focused on raising my kid and just doing my job. I was not, like I said, I was not street smart. I did not even know my son would be, you know, murdered. And this is not even to do with him experimenting with these drugs. This was just, he fell in the cloth of a predator. You know what I mean? You can put in the news, yeah, drug deal gone bad. This is not what happened. This is a guy who let his frustration out. This guy, I believe, was on a prescription since 6 years old. Okay? Wow. And you know...
How old was he?
About 26, almost 27 when he murdered my son. 6, 7 years older. And this, he was not a kid, okay? My son was a late bloomer. On these photos, he looks more like a 15-year-old. You know, I was a late bloomer, looked very young when I was in the United States. But I feel like, yeah, this is, I'm still in shock, okay? This hasn't really sunken in. It is just very painful, and you cannot explain it to people. I did my counseling. Finally, I told my counselor, you know what? Santa Fe needs counseling. Stop this crap. You're not going to put me on some kind of pills and make money of me. Why does every doctor always ask you the first question, what's your pain from 1 to 10? It's never 0. Because every number is a medicine. Okay, this is bull crap. dude, why doesn't doctor tell you go hike 5 miles and come back for a refill, hike another 5 miles, all your problems, anxiety go away. But that's just who I am, you know. People don't have to live like me, alcohol free. This nobody can take away from me. Viktor-Daniel, you know, I miss you, and you know, you're looking out for me, and you sent me a beautiful girl, a Christmas baby, a year ago. It cost me a lot of money because it was through surrogacy. It's my biological kid. But I got this beautiful kid here, you know, Caroline Victoria. And when I went to the fiestas, a lady came up to me and she said, you know what? I've never seen a kid like this. It has beautiful gray blue eyes. This is the most beautiful kid in the whole universe. This is this baby I have.
Wow, she's beautiful.
She is beautiful, and she's
Yeah.
a little flirt too.
She's
When I was at his house, she was just the cutest
She
thing.
started walking last 2 days.
Yeah.
Today,
And you're remarried, correct?
Yeah, I got married to my partner, Laura, also Hispanic lady. With her, she helped me raise Viktor-Daniel. I'm with her since 2010. You know, I got married, and she never had a baby. And it's funny how it goes. You know, we are both over 50. She has her first baby. We're
Wow.
starting all over. You can laugh about it. I'm at 75. I will still claim child credit for my taxes.
Well, it's
But you know, this is not. People, you know, are too negative about kids. It's beautiful. She gives me so much. I called her Caroline Victoria, just like the song Caroline. You know, it was spring, became summer, you're growing stronger, and your pain runs off your shoulder. I played this song when my daughter was born at the St. Vincent Hospital. You know, we had a little party with Dr. Goodman, and it was a Christmas baby, Christmas Eve, the 24th. I didn't plan this. This is my little Santo Niño. Send a little message. She's probably going to be the next governor.
I hope
that
so.
should be a good one. Much better than the one we have now.
We're all about
But-
out of time, but I just want to thank you for sitting down with us and for telling us your story and telling us what happened to your son.
Yeah.
And
Thank-
our condolences. I have a lot of respect for you, for what you've been through, for what your value set is, and you are a great addition to our city.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're
for
gonna
your
grab
courage.
some. We're gonna grab some footage of what you brought over there before you
I
go.
mean, you know,
And we would like to get a close up too of the pants and the sweatshirt.
yeah, the pants.
bye bye a la cámara, hijo. Viktor Daniel. No, ok, bye bye. Y bye bye, ok. Di bye bye.
Bye, Sherry.
Bye bye, Shelly. ¿Tío Lalo también? Bye bye.